BlackBerry.com.
Hey everybody, Kevin here for BlackBerry.com with the BlackBerry Bold 9790. I just got my reviewer's unit here, so you can see I've got the device. We can take a look at it. But the good news is I've actually been using this baby for like a week now. So I'll put the review unit away and let's get down and dirty with this newest BlackBerry Bold. So I want to line it up here with the Bold 9780. So this is your BlackBerry 6 top of the line Bold. This is the BlackBerry Bold 9900 or 9930, and this is sort of your flagship BlackBerry Bold. And the newly released 9790 is, you know, either the straight successor to this guy, or kind of like the little brother or little sister to this guy. So let's take a look at them and go through some of the details of what's different and which Bold might be the Bold for you. So first off, looking at the phone itself, you can see here it's got some changes to it compared to, let's say, the Bold 9780, which is it's the most similar to. Obviously, nicer styling. You know, you don't have this harsh screen line. You've got a nice waterfall effect here. It's a lot smoother, kind of sleeker design. Down the front, you do have sort of little individual raised buttons versus the old style here. You do have the light-up trackpad. And you have keyboards that are, for the most part, pretty similar, I would say. I haven't taken a microscope to it to see what's different, but you know, you get the feeling of it being a similar phone. Thickness-wise, the new Bold 9790 on the bottom here is quite a bit thinner. That's where you really notice a difference. Around the back, you can see a different look and feel here too. And around the sides, you can see how things kind of got cleaned up. No more left side convenience key on the new Bold. And that's kind of it. Now, screen resolution wise here, they both have the same resolution, 480 by 360 pixels. Now, comparing it to, let's say, the Bold 9900, you can see the difference in size. The Bold 9900 has a bigger keyboard. The 9900's keyboard is definitely easier to type on. But again, the 9790's keyboard is similar to the 9780, which means it's pretty good still. You can see the difference in size there. Now, from a spec standpoint, there's a few critical differences between these two devices. So these are both on BlackBerry 7, obviously. They both have touchscreens, so that's a big difference here. This old Bold was no touchscreen. The new one, of course, has a touchscreen. When it comes to processor, this has a 1.2 gigahertz Qualcomm chipset in it and processor. This is a 1 gigahertz Marvell processor, so not quite as quick. But overall, snappy to use. I haven't had really any complaints with it. Maybe the only difference I've seen is this might render web pages slightly quicker, you know, a little quicker rendering JavaScript. And, you know, other than that, pretty good for overall use. I don't think anybody will complain. Now, two of the biggest gripes with the 9900 have been battery life, not so hot, especially if you're not on Wi-Fi and you're on carrier coverage. And no autofocus on the camera. It is a continuous focus thing and not quite as good at taking photos. So this guy has autofocus on the camera, which is awesome. And it also has really good battery life. You can see under the hood, it's using the same 1230 milliamp battery that is in the 9900, which that one's empty, but it's the same battery, trust me. Which is downsized from the 1500 milliamp that was in the older Bold. But I found the battery life to be really good overall so far in this 9790 in a week of use. A lot better. You know, I haven't been running it on Wi-Fi at all, just to see how it compares to what I was getting with the 9900 historically. And the battery life has been really good. So if you have been a 9900 user and you're not happy with the battery life or the lack of autofocus, this does kind of address those needs. Where it's maybe not as good here, or what's missing, is HD video recording on the camera. Somehow this Marvell chipset does not have it, whereas the Qualcomm does. It makes me really sad, because it's almost 2012, and really no smartphone should be without HD video in my opinion. So that's one of the areas where it's not as cool. Internal memory, 768 megs of RAM. You'll find it's performs well. It's the same kind of deal as the 9900 in that respect. Looking at it though, it's really making a decision. You know, we were told at my original briefing on the 9790 that, you know, this was kind of designed for emerging markets, so part of it was a little bit lower cost on the chipset and everything to keep the outright contract or the outright purchase price a little lower. And also designed for people who want a smaller phone, you know, who maybe smaller hands, more of a maybe female bold of the two bolds. But honestly, there's no female or male here. It really comes down to preference. This feels like a bit of a workhorse. I mean, you can beat up this phone. This was a great phone, the old 9780, for just tossing around. And you know, somehow with the 9900, it's such a beautiful device. You really want to take good care of it. And I feel like this is a happy medium where you're getting the updated styling, but you still have sort of a workhorse phone that looks good, works well, and I think it's really a matter of preference. So if you're looking for a new bold, I don't feel like if you go for the 9790, you're really going for a lesser experience than the 9900. One thing I've noticed is, you know, with the smaller touchscreen here, I typically use it maybe for launching applications, but not so much for, you know, because it is smaller when it comes to things like, you know, pinching to zoom and that, it's not bad, but you know, when you get your thumb on the screen and index finger, it's a little tight. So I kind of find I don't use it quite as much as I was on the 9900. But overall, great device. Check out our full review on it. I've been really happy with it. In terms of these buttons, they work well. You know, it's actually nice that they're not completely flush, because they're not really raised, but you know, they're raised enough. Well, they're slightly raised, but they're not really raised so much that they're annoying, but they're raised just enough that you can feel them out with your fingers, which I like. Maybe don't look quite as nice as this kind of design implementation, but really slick. And again, you can see how they've gone with more of a, you know, all white coloring on the keyboard and buttons, just kind of simplifying the device a little bit. Has very nice lines to it. Overall, great hardware. It delivers the BlackBerry 7 experience really well. And that's kind of it, you know, it really comes down to what you want. This is kind of the flagship looker, but if you're having trouble with battery life, if you don't have a lot of access to Wi-Fi in your day in and day out coverage, you may want to go with this, because I've been finding battery life to be really exceptional. And you know, again, having autofocus is really nice, and I really hope they don't build a phone again that doesn't have it, because that's kind of a shortcoming of the 9900. So that is your BlackBerry Bold 9790. You can see some of the changes here, you know, micro USB at the bottom versus on the sides, which should be good for a charging stand that'll come out. You got your single button at the top. You got your blinking LED crack light. I mean, I'm just going on and on here because it's a Bold, it's a phone, and I like to play with it. But that's it, Bold 9790. It is a very nice device. Thin, sleek, a little smaller, still a Bold. Love it. Kevin out.
BlackBerry.com